the United States Supreme Court has struck down President Donald Trump's previous emergency trade measures, ruling that he exceeded his constitutional authority. But within hours of that decision, Trump responded with a new move, announcing a 10% global tariff on imports. Posting on Truth Social, the president said he had signed an executive order and that the tariff would take effect almost immediately. The court's ruling has now created legal and economic uncertainty as governments and markets try to understand what it means for existing trade deals, past duties, and future negotiations. Let's look at how key countries are reacting. In Seoul, the Blue House says it will review its trade agreement with Washington and act in the national interest. Last November, South Korea agreed to lower tariffs from 25% to 15% in exchange for $350 billion in investments into the US. For some sectors, including chemicals and semiconductors, the Supreme Court decision is seen as positive. Even if Trump reintroduces tariffs under other legal provisions, rates could still remain lower than before. But automobile exports, more than half of which go to the US, are still subject to 25% duties. Steel faces 50% tariffs under separate legislation not affected by the ruling. Given that exports account for 85% of South Korea's GDP, officials are moving cautiously. India had faced some of the highest tariffs under Trump's earlier emergency trade powers, up to 50% when penalties linked to Russian oil purchases were added. Earlier this month, Washington and New Delhi reached a framework trade deal. Tariffs on key Indian exports were reportedly reduced to 18%. While India agreed to major US defense, energy, and AI imports. Now, India may wait for the final legal outcome before moving further. The concern is that if the original tariffs were unconstitutional, the legal basis for the new deal may also need review. China's response has been muted so far, partly because of the Lunar New Year holiday. The Chinese embassy in Washington reiterated that trade wars benefit no one. Since last year, China has faced layered tariffs, including 100% duties on electric vehicles and additional levies on chemicals linked to fentanyl production. If the Supreme Court ruling reduces the effective tariff rate from roughly 36% to about 21%, it could provide some relief to China's struggling economy. The decision also comes ahead of a possible Trump 11 meeting in April, raising hopes of a reset in relations. Canada has welcomed the ruling, but noted that Section 232 tariffs on steel, aluminium, lumber, and automobiles remain in place. Mexico says it is carefully reviewing the court's decision. Under the USMCA trade agreement, most goods between the US, Canada, and Mexico are protected from reciprocal tariffs. However, sector-specific duties on steel, aluminium, and auto parts are still unaffected. The ruling does not judge the economic wisdom of tariffs. Instead, it says the president cannot use emergency powers beyond constitutional limits. Now, with Trump introducing a new 10% global tariff, attention will turn to whether this fresh measure can withstand legal scrutiny.